Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something a little bit different, and honestly, it is absolutely fascinating. Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually happens to our brains, and specifically our language, when we push our bodies to the absolute brink? Well, today we're looking at the transcript of a home workout from the channel Jeho Fitness. At first glance, it kind of looks like a glitch, right? Just a completely nonsensical string of repetitive words. But we're going to treat this like a psychological case study, because hidden inside the seemingly chaotic text is a literal map of human endurance.
Okay, let's dive right in and establish exactly what kind of environment we're dealing with here. We're talking about a 25-minute, full-body, fat-burning workout that requires zero equipment, so no weights, no machines, just you, gravity, and your living room floor. And undergoing that kind of severe, sustained physical stress, it does something pretty remarkable to the human mind. The luxury of complex language, full sentences and nuanced thoughts, it completely falls away. And what we're left with are these raw, primal mantras. It's a space where physical stress literally strips away our ability to speak in anything other than absolute necessities.
To make sense of all this, we'll quickly unpack the 4 distinct linguistic stages we see in this transcript. Stage 1, igniting the body's heat. Stage 2, the mantra of pursuit. Stage 3, facing the physical wall. And finally, Stage 4, the mental breakthrough.
Section 1. Igniting the body's heat. Just look at the sheer visual overwhelm of this repetition. It perfectly mirrors the rapid, rhythmic, and frankly exhausting physical reality of a tough warm-up. I mean, when you start a high-intensity workout, your #1 goal is just getting that core temperature up. You're definitely not pondering philosophy. You're just thinking about survival and prepping your muscles. So the language here becomes hyper-focused on this one single physical sensation. It morphs into this rhythmic chant, essentially designed to force the body to wake up.
And that brings us to a brilliant little data point, 109. That is the exact number of times the word heat is chanted in this short transcript. Think about that. It acts as this foundational, rhythmic anchor throughout the entire routine. At this point, it isn't even a word anymore. It's a metronome. It's literally the baseline heartbeat of the workout. And even when other phrases eventually pop up, that chant of heat always returns. It grounds the participant right back in the stark, physical reality of the exertion.
Moving on to Section 2, the mantra of pursuit.
So once the body is fully warmed up, the real work actually begins. And wow, the language abruptly shifts. You can see this sudden pivot from the passive state of just generating heat to an active, relentless pursuit. We get all these variations of get it, gotta get it, and yes it get it. This is the language of sheer, unfiltered force. The workout isn't just a warm-up anymore. It's practically an adversary that has to be conquered. This new mantra is a psychological tool, deployed specifically to force the body through that rapidly rising discomfort. It's commanding, it's super aggressive, and it leaves absolutely zero room for hesitation.
Which leads us to Section 3, facing the physical wall.
Check out the stark clash happening here. On one hand, we've got this relentless internal command just screaming to push forward, get it, gotta get it. But on the other hand, stark physical reality is crashing the party. The voice literally has to pause to correct form, saying, come on, round back, back up. This right here, this is the exact moment fatigue truly sets in. The body is quite literally starting to buckle under the strain. That pristine, aggressive drive we just talked about is being rudely interrupted by the desperate basic need to just maintain posture and survive the movement.
And as that fatigue hits its absolute peak, the mantra just completely devolves. Look at this wild phrase from the transcript. I'm never, no, heat, are you? We are witnessing a fascinating breakdown in grammar itself. The conscious brain is literally being starved of oxygen and energy because all those resources are being frantically routed to the screaming muscles. Higher cognitive functions? They just shut down. The speaker loses the thread of the sentence entirely, defaults right back to that primal anchor of heat, and then just throws out these fragmented questioning words like, are you? It perfectly captures the sheer disorientation of maximum exertion.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, the mental breakthrough. Suddenly, that frantic, repetitive pace we've been tracking just slows way down. Out of the total chaos of heat and get it, we suddenly hear this intensely emotional, heavily thoughtful plea, find a way if only I could find a way. Honestly, this is incredible to see. The speaker is staring down a sheer vertical wall of muscular failure, and brute force just isn't going to cut it anymore. This isn't a command. It's a deep negotiation with the self. It requires a massive amount of mental clarity to access this level of pure determination when your body is practically begging to quit. They are literally searching their own mind for a path through the pain. Now, if we zoom out and look at the entire workout lexicon, the underlying structure becomes incredibly clear. You can see the overwhelming dominance of the physical state, that massive chunk representing the word heat. Then we have a pretty solid portion dedicated to the drive with all the get-its. But tapering off at the very end is this tiny but deeply profound sliver of pure psychological struggle. Find a way. It represents the absolute smallest portion of the words spoken, but undeniably, it is the hardest part of the entire workout.
It is honestly mind-blowing how this seemingly chaotic and highly repetitive transcript maps out so perfectly. It essentially mirrors the psychological steps of the classic hero's journey just applied to physical exertion. You start with the raw physical reality, you transition into this aggressive drive, and you culminate in a desperate, deeply human mental negotiation to conquer your own limits. What looks like pure nonsense on paper turns out to be a highly efficient linguistic survival tool.
The transcript eventually concludes with a few triumphant, albeit exhausted chants of heat yeah, signaling the end of the battle. But unpacking all of this leaves us with a pretty compelling question. When all the complex layers of our daily language are totally stripped away and we're left with absolutely nothing but the raw physical grind, what does your internal monologue sound like? The next time you find yourself pushed to your absolute limit, listen closely. You just might find you're chanting your own primal mantra, desperately trying to find a way. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I hope it completely changes the way you think about your next workout.